President Christian, if he has a report.
I do. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for being here today. In the interest of time and in recognition of the keen interest in the topic of the Hasbrook building complex, I'm going to keep my report fairly brief, and I'm going to focus specifically on the topic at hand today. I think it's most appropriate if council members defer any questions about my report until we discuss the resolution at hand today. And I would echo the suggestion from Mr. Bash that this is an official business meeting, and so I ask you to refrain from expressing your approval or disapproval of any particular views that are expressed so that we don't have a chilling effect on the conversation. We've recently provided council members with information that responded to some of the questions that came up at the September 6th College Council meeting, and that included more extensive evidence of slave ownership by the original Huguenot patentee families, and also a confirmation by SUNY legal counsel after their review of state education law that while the council has the authority to name buildings and grounds, this and other council actions are subject to the approval of the SUNY Board of Trustees. We also shared with the council in that recent mailing 2 resolutions supporting the removal and replacement of the Hasbrook names as both the Diversity and Inclusion Council and as I, as President, have recommended. One of those resolutions was passed in spring 2018 by the Student Senate, and the other was passed this fall by the Faculty Senate by a 51-0 margin with 2 abstentions. I want to comment briefly, summarizing several points that I wrote to council members about. First, I see it as unfortunate if we treat slavery on other continents and in other periods of history as equivalent to the background that's most relevant to the issue that we face today of names on campus buildings. Colonial slavery in the Americas has had a unique and enduring impact on education, employment, health, and nearly all systems in this country. And not every colonist chose to engage in this practice. The Quakers conspicuously did not. We all live with this enduring legacy and how it continues to play out in our society, especially on a college campus in the daily experience of students of color. But students across all demographics are increasingly calling for institutions to be accountable to the values of inclusion. And if we're not able to demonstrate that ability to evolve in our understanding, we'll not be able to serve future generations of New York citizens, as is our mission. I've heard the characterization that by recommending these names be replaced, we're, quote, erasing history, and I disagree with that view. Quite the contrary, we want to be certain that we portray relevant history more fully. That includes the history of Huguenot patentees and their descendants and their positive contributions, along, of course, with the history of slavery. It also includes the history and contributions of enslaved Africans and their descendants, and the indigenous peoples who were here before the Europeans and Africans. These people have been treated through our history as the other, and their stories have often been ignored or minimized. By many assessments, that's a specific legacy of slavery. I spoke at the previous meeting on September 6th about my deepening empathy throughout last year's process for students and others whose life experiences are quite different than mine. I listened to students and others talk about the alienation that they felt to live, eat, and sleep in buildings named for those who enslaved Africans. My direct experience through that process and the careful analysis of the Diversity and Inclusion Council made it clear to me that only by changing the names could we honor those experiences and perspectives. And I hope that council members as well can be open-minded as you consider this issue and give more weight to the evolving population at SUNY New Paltz and their particular needs. That is, helping the college be increasingly attractive to a wide range of students from diverse backgrounds. Increasingly, these are the students of our future. I would also appeal to the council members to respect what many of us regard as an exceptional process of campus and community engagement in this issue. This process brought members of our community together to understand shared values, was forward-looking in scope while not ignoring the past, and generated overwhelming support for the change that we're recommending. That support comes from students, faculty, and staff, many of whom are here in the room today, many alumni, our campus leadership team, and certainly me as president. I've kept the SUNY Chancellor and the Chair of the SUNY Board of Trustees informed of our process from the very start and of my position on this matter. They've been supportive and they're very eager to hear the outcome of the College Council deliberation. My point here in sharing these last points is that this has been a very serious undertaking, and I hope that as the College Council charged with acting in the best interest of the college and our future, you'll give full consideration to the depth and breadth of thought and effort that was invested in this process. I want to close with a comment about our process. From the very start, I intentionally structured this effort to keep our focus initially on whether these building names should change or not, without the complication of considering alternative names. The Council's consideration today is the first step in what we should all regard as a process that must involve two steps, even though those two steps should be closely linked. So if the Council votes to change the names, the next step will be determination of the new names. And the Council should lead that process with community input. Certainly, we all need to recognize that approval of the new names is within the authority of the College Council. If we move ahead, and I would encourage the Council to complete that early step in the spring semester, if the Council votes to change the names, and when those new names are determined, we will take a single resolution to the SUNY Board of Trustees to change the names and replace them with specific new names. Certainly, we all need to recognize that the current names on these buildings will not be removed and replaced until after that step is completed. So that constitutes my report. Thank you.